want none of this shit around me. Like Jen Fessler checks out. Boom, she leaves. So I don't even think Jen Fessler witnessed round 2 between Teresa and Margaret because she
Is
checked out early. But Jen did say
Did Danielle come back to the table though, or she left?
she did. And Jennifer Aydin told me she was like a queen. She was like, yes, okay, to production. Danielle can have a seat at my table. She said she even behaved like queen, like she said. So yes, they all come back to the table, but I think it was that Jen Fessler checks out.
Okay.
So they're all at the table, and then boom, Teresa. These are per Teresa's notes. Teresa starts. Oh wait, real quick, guys. Let me insert this. While that whole shit show went down between Daniel and Jen Aydin, and like the table, the shit got all over everybody. Glasses were breaking. Teresa told me that Melissa Gorga made like a comment, and we did see this in the preview, that she said, because Teresa was like, Danielle, like, why would
Like, why
you
would you
do
do
that?
this?
Why would you put this stuff on her? Like, come on. Yeah. And Melissa was like, she learned from the best, white trash. And I remember, guys, when Melissa said that, Teresa was like, Gabriela, make a note of that. She said white trash. This fucking bitch, isn't that racist? And I was like, yeah, I guess you could say it is. Yeah, I'll say it is. And she's like, okay, because when we see that on TV, if they show it, fuck that bitch up. Like, she's racist. She called me white trash. And I remember I told her, Teresa, do we really want to do that though? Because you called Margaret white trash. And people, her fans mainly, will post that and,
Yeah.
and say, why are you guys calling this racist? Look what you said it yourself, girl. And she was like, fuck. Like, I made her realize, like, we really can't play that card. So I remember she got irritated, but she did say Melissa called her white trash and that she learned from the best. And that's true because Teresa's known to flip a table. But anyway, so that took place. So then they all return back to the table. And then Teresa's like, so then I start telling, because she's like, I knew from that moment she was going to have to go in on March. She knew she had to go in on March. So she's like, Gabriela, I knew at that moment it was like my cue. Like, because these girls, David, you know how they do it. The producers will sit you at that table for hours and literally whisper in your ear, you better attack. It's time. Like, hey, your fight. Let's go. Here we are. So
Yeah.
Teresa was like, I knew when we sat back down, I was going to come for Margaret. So Teresa then starts in on Margaret, and she starts Teresa told me she accuses Margaret of telling the Fudas that Louie hired a PI to bring out Brittany. And then boom, Rachel jumps in and she was like, I told you, like, I said it was a family friend who told me that. Like, why are you blaming Margaret? And Teresa was like snarky. She was like, when she told me that, Gabriela, I just looked at her. I'm like, yeah, whatever. A family friend. Yeah, okay. 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 That's right. Well, like Teresa was being a bitch about it. And it was like, she goes, Rachel, Gabriela, like as soon as I was like, whatever, bitch, like, fuck yeah. Okay, whatever, friend. She goes, she got so mad. She called me hot dog lips. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, she was like, she called me a hot dog lips and she told me don't talk about her husband. But we saw in the preview, you guys, Rachel does say, keep my husband's name out of your fat hot dog lips mouth. She says something like that to her. And we saw that clip, Bravo released it. But that's why
Yeah.
Rachel says it, because Teresa's sitting there once they get back from the shit show between Danielle and Jen. And she starts accusing Margaret of getting in the Fuda's ear and accusing Teresa and Louie and hiring the PI of bringing out Brittany. So Teresa tries to then fight with Margaret in regards to that. And then that's when, boom, Rachel jumps in and says, keep my husband's name out of your mouth. So I was like, okay. So then after that, Teresa said, she goes at it back and forth with Margaret about how, you were talking to Vanessa, you were talking to Louie's ex. This bitch has like been doing this to my life. And my brother, it was admitted on the stand that my brother was also talking to her. And then she's like, boom, here comes Margaret. She drops like, really, because it was Jackie who was the first one to talk to Margaret does admit that she talked to Vanessa, by the way, guys, but she does put it in Teresa's face that it was Jackie Goldschneider who originally reached out to Vanessa. And she didn't reach out in a concerning way. She didn't reach out in like a, hey, I'm a little curious. She reached out because she wanted dirt on Teresa and Louie because she was mad over the Evan cheating rumor. So here was Margaret telling Teresa to her face that Jackie even had Vanessa Reiser in her home. gathering all this tea on Louie, and that it was Jackie who was the first cast member on RHONJ to bring Vanessa into the circle. And so if you guys pay attention to Teresa, and she's going to get all pissed off and crazy on Margaret, which is ironic, everybody, because Teresa hates Margaret. So for Teresa to fight with Margaret, like if Margaret was her bestie for life, and she's so betrayed because her BFF was talking to Louie's ex, it makes no sense because Teresa hates Margaret. So it's like, in reality, at the end of the day, who gives a shit who Margaret was talking to? That's not your friend, Teresa, and you know you hate her. But here she is excusing Jackie. And Teresa even said, everybody, that she didn't care that Jackie even had Vanessa at her house, or that Jackie reached out to Vanessa first, or that Jackie talked to Vanessa, period, because Teresa felt a little guilt over the Evan cheating rumor. So she's like, I know why Jackie was talking to her, but Margaret was supposed to be my friend. And I was like, girl, like, let's dip into reality. You hate this bitch. What do you mean she's supposed to be your friend? Like, how do you feel so betrayed? And if everybody really wants to know where it's all so mind-boggling here and where it's also fucking warped, Teresa is sitting here face to face with Margaret, complaining that Margaret talked to Vanessa, which she did, and how she's so hurt by that because Vanessa has brought so much chaos into their life, when Teresa knew that her own assistant, Carrie Ann, was talking to Vanessa. So forget about Jackie, forget about Margaret. Teresa's own assistant of over a decade, Carrie Ann, had been talking to Vanessa for a very long time. And how this whole thing came to play. I gotta sidetrack real quick, David.
And Carrie Ann still works for Teresa now. They post all the time together.
Yes.
Right?
So again, you guys, like, I guess my point I'm trying to make is that, and I'll get back to the finale tea in a second, but
Yeah.
when we watch her rage on Margaret over talking to Vanessa, it makes no sense because, number one, you don't like the girl, and number two, your own assistant, your so-called sister, the girl who you had as a bridesmaid, Carrie Ann herself, was talking to Vanessa.
Why was Carrie Ann
So, like,
talking to
you're still
Vanessa?
working with Carrie Ann, you out of concern because of Louie, out of concern. I mean, back then, David. So this is how we found out about Carrie Ann really quick.
I mean, I
We
heard
found,
for a while, not years, but I heard also that Carrie Ann hated Louis and never would say that because everyone that said it was fired and she would never say it.
yeah. So here's the tea, and we'll get back to everything. But I guess my main point into talking about Carrie Ann is, like, we're gonna watch the hypocrisy of Teresa make a big deal over Margaret talking to Vanessa when her own assistant, her own sister, she called her sister, was doing the same. Yet Carrie Ann is still working with her. So I don't understand. You excuse Jackie because of the Evan thing. You excuse Carrie Ann for whatever reason, but you're pissed at Margaret, who you hate anyway. Like, make it make sense. That's how phony that storyline is. But anyway, so Carrie Ann, you guys, this is important. This is